Welcome to this series about capacity and capability building to craft and shape operations, enabling adoption and adaption. As we go through this journey, we take a more in-depth look at selected aspects with a focus on business issues around technological transformation. With these being more in depth on heavier materials, please feel free to review the takeout points if in a rush, but also take your time to go through, pause, get the real benefits. We hope the skills and expertise shared is of value to you and those you support in this changing world. Please subscribe, add your comments, and share with others. This week, we look at the risk-based approach to business, which comes from artificial intelligence and the automation of knowledge worker services. Automation changes the strategic risk and other aspects of risk management at the board and executive level, including consideration of information risk rather than technology risk. Risk management as an emergent behaviour is part of the business with the need to embed the required layers in the automation. The process change and related people risk is part of the changing risk profile and appetite around automation. These and other impacts are explored further. Thank you for staying. To make the transformation and manage the automation of knowledge worker services, an emergent behavior of a risk-based approach to business is required. This is more than controls and monitoring. It is the skilling, ability to do, and the training, the how to do, with the tools, processes, and leadership to form an emergent behavior. Strategic risk. At the board and executive level, the increasing use of AI and knowledge worker automation is changing the risk profile and risk appetite of the business. The technology risk is not only synonymous with strategic risk, but the risk for the board is the supply, management, and assurance of information rather than technology. It is the information risk which changes business dependencies, makes separation of the business in mergers and acquisitions more complex, and impacts strategy like divesting a business that is too costly to automate while value remains in the business. Markets. Whether it is cyber attacks which impact changes cross-border information flows, or sovereign risk impacting market events, the risk for a business around information provision and assurance manifested through markets is likely to be seen. The risk to a business from pricing in AI-based operations can impact share prices as well as impacting the risk of market prices around mergers and acquisitions. This is just some of the market risk changes for a business around the use of AI and automated knowledge workers. Customers. Just as AI can be used to successfully profile customers and enhance services, poor implementations impact customers with related risk-based outcomes for a business. The ability to manually intervene and fix integrated end-to-end machine-driven learning operations changes the risk to a business, especially the risk of errors carrying forward with wider impacts. Vendors and suppliers. The automation of knowledge workers and assurance of information sources increases the vendor dependency risk of a business. In addition, a business is increasingly exposed to the AI-based operations of vendors, especially in end-to-end logistics and machine learning chains. Again, this is just part of the risk profile change of a business. Data and information. This is the major area of change with associated risk for a business. The shift is from the assurance of technology to the assurance of information, especially that consumed in machine-to-machine operations. Beyond assuring the data and its supply and quality, the assurance of algorithmic performance is also required. This is a substantial change in the risk of a business. Processes and operations. Risks associated include the risk in changing processes and operations, the need for skilling, the ability to do, and training the how to do, as well as the loss of expertise risk as processes are automated. The need to embed a layered risk management approach within the automation to help form the emergent behaviour is also required. This is just a highlight of the risk management changes related to the use of AI and automated knowledge worker services. Within the management of the automated knowledge worker services risk, the use of AI is seen in data layer. This is the management, provision, and assurance of the data. The main consumption will lie in the machine-to-machine use of information for value-added products for knowledge worker services, as well as other machine-to-machine consumption. AI plays a role within the management, provision, and assurance of the data, including addressing aspects of quality, consistency, continuity of sources, and uniformity of derived values. The AI is across the different data sources, including records imaging, as well as audio, video, and image data. Benchmark testing of the data layer is required within a risk-based approach. AI layer. This is the combination of AI, machine-to-machine learning, analytics, real-time decision-making, algorithms, search, process flows, metadata, and assurance together, which is the overall AI for the automation of knowledge worker services. Benchmark testing of the AI layer is required within the risk-based approach. Management layer. The management layer to assure operations across the AI layer and data layer is required and will use AI itself with the required benchmark testing for a risk-based approach. Beyond the business and service opportunities lies the risk-based approach to management of the operations with the required controls and risk management. To manage the risk of the design, development, implementation, operation, assurance, and consumption of the automated knowledge worker service, a business embeds a risk-based approach within the operations. People risk. The management of the risk with people, from skilling, the ability to do, to training, the how to do, to loss of IP, to embedding layered emergent behaviour within people. Service and product risk. Being able to manage the risk to services and products from automated knowledge worker services. From protecting customers to remediation of automated operations to a risk-based approach to new products and services dependent upon AI and automation, risk management is integral to products and services from automated knowledge worker services. It is a series of risk managements which forms the required emergent behavior. Process and information risk. This is the major area of risk change. It is the provision, assurance, management and continuity of information, especially machine-to-machine operations, where a risk-based approach is needed. This includes the monitoring, controls, and embedding of the emergent behavior into systems, processes, and operations. Technology, operations, and services risk. The risk-based approach of emergent behavior carries into the operations and services where the focus remains the provision, assurance, management, and continuity of information. Again, it is the machine-to-machine operations where a risk-based approach is required. Operations are no longer physically centered, but are data set centric with recovery sequence to assure business priorities across the multiple information sources. Technology development risk. Whether designing, developing, or testing, the risk-based approach moves from system-centric to dataset provision, continuity, and management, especially for machine-to-machine operations. The emergent behavior approach is a fundamental design element which is required. Shared services risk. The risk to provision of shared services from the use of AI and automated knowledge worker services, as well as the risk from the shared services to other areas of service provision. Again, the emergent behavior management is required. Assurance risk. The overall assurance of the service on a risk-based approach using the emergent behaviors covering governance, safety, security, compliance, audit, resilience, strategic risks, standards, and accreditation. The assurance risk uses AI and other automated services as well as providing the assurance to these across the business operations. The need for a risk-based approach to the design, development, implementation, operation, assurance, and consumption of the automated knowledge worker services is seen together with an overall emergent behavior approach across the business. Thank you for your time. May the skills and expertise shared be of value to you and those you support in this changing world. Please subscribe, add your comments, and share with others.